we're just gonna go to the Zach Lowe stuff, and I'm gonna play it for people that haven't seen or haven't heard it. This was Zach Lowe's comments about Cade Cunningham as a player.
I am in on Cade Cunningham. I am not in on Cade Cunningham as like super duper star first team All NBA guy. Don't get me wrong, but he got buried early, and I'm in on him to like. If he made the All-Star team this year, I wouldn't be surprised. If you set the over-under on 2.5 career All-Star appearances, I'm taking the over on Cade Cunningham All-Star appearance. Like I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. The question is just everything around him.
So I know you want to kind of like go in on just because I saw a lot of people this past week talk about it. It was just Cade discourse, and I love Cade discourse, and we're not even into the season yet, so it got me excited. But what are your thoughts on Zach Lowe's comments about Cade Cunningham?
Zach Lowe has always seen the vision, I think. I remember him doing an interview with Cade, I think after his rookie season, that I thought was great, and you could really see he understood Cade's game. My take on this has nothing to do with what Zach Lowe said. I am in 100% agreement. I think I completely see where he's coming from, and I'm with him on that. I'm going to pull up a tweet of my own that I saw, and it was something I just thought was interesting because it's really reflective of a lot of the Cade discourse. And it's this. He goes, excuse me, horrible podcasting on my side. Zach Lowe saying he's, quote, taking the over on 2.5 career All-Star appearances for Cade. And then it's this meme that says 555, come on now. And then he goes on to say, this is what drives me insane about the Cade talk. He's a fine player, a perfectly good starting point guard. In 2017, yeah, he probably gets a couple, but run through the list of guys now, to say nothing of who gets traded or drafted into the conference. I think part of him being saddled with the baggage of being a number one pick, and partly that people look back, i.e. Bradley Beal made All-Star games, and they are similar caliber players, when the level of talent has, all caps, rapidly risen over the last decade. Zach should know this. And this is coming from an account called NBA Baby Secret, who has 6.2 thousand followers, and strikes me as someone who I use the term galaxy brain, is one of those people who have to feel a lot smarter in order to make themselves feel important. I'm not shitting on this person, but that was a horrible take, in my opinion. And it's really striking because I think a lot of the discourse on Cade is really similar to that, where they go, oh, like because of where his career is. And, I think the whole if this was 2017, Cade Cunningham would make a few All-Star appearances. I'm sorry. If this was 2017 and you put Cade Cunningham onto the 2016-17 Detroit Pistons even, he would be seen as one of the best players in the NBA. You will put a 6'7", 6'8" point guard. Who knows, right? Like, he started and came in the league 6'9", whatever. But you put a 6'7", yes. I'll say 6'7". I feel like 6'6" is undershooting it. I'll say 6'7" point guard in the 2017 NBA that can actually shoot. And Ben Simmons was getting hype around that time. I'm sorry, you're out of your goddamn mind. I think the Cade Cunningham discourse has gotten absolutely puzzling, and it drives me insane. Not because genuinely at this point, covering the Pistons, being around the Crews as much as I have, I can say I started out as a big Pistons fan. At this point, I feel more emotionally neutral towards the team as a fan. I just more so am someone who's so into this world that it's like something that I'm just kind of in now. But I will never not, and this is me saying this, I'm a huge fan of Cade Cunningham's game, and I can't really see how someone can't be, despite the fact that he has been given horrible roster construction after horrible roster construction. He has had 3 different head coaches now in 4 seasons, and really he has only played 3 full seasons, and he has had a different head coach each season. The last one was playing Killian Hayes for half of the season until he was literally forced to take him out of the lineup. You have had Bojan Bogdanovic as his most consistent veteran. He has not had a single point guard on this team, on a Detroit Pistons basketball team, that has been able to say, oh, this is where I was, do X, Y, and Z. And, he hasn't had any form of leadership, mentorship, and true development that any other young player gets. Every other young player gets like their hand held and taken along this road of like, okay, you're going to become a star. Luka Doncic had Dirk, Zion Williamson, even, like, granted, he hasn't, you talk about potential, hasn't been able to live up to his potential yet because of health. Zion Williamson came into the league. JJ Redick was on his team year one. Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Drew Holiday. Who has Cade Cunningham had? And I know people want to go on this whole thing about, oh, well, you can't talk about like the team he has because, that's taking away accountability from Cade. But I'm sorry. No player going into year 4 of their career should be talked about like prime LeBron James when it comes to carrying teams. I'm so sorry. That's just not how discourse works. Like, there's so few players in the recent memory that have had the history that Cade has where they come out of it stronger. Like Devin Booker is like a diamond in the rough. You know what I mean? Like the fact that he is where he is now compared to like the trenches that the Suns had him in is a true testament to how good Devin Booker is. And I put Cade Cunningham in that same level where he's been in the trenches the last few years. He has been through, in my opinion, like some of the worst teams that he could possibly be given. He has not been put, objectively, not been put in positions to win basketball games. He has not been in positions for his skill set to be used to its fullest potential. He has been in positions where rather than thriving, he has to survive on the NBA court. I mean, for Alec Burks was his saving grace for a lot of times. And that's no disrespect to Alec Burks, but Alec Burks is a bench player on the New York Knicks now. He is not even their 6th most important player. And he was like probably the 2nd or 3rd most important player for the Pistons the last few years. I cannot say to people, and this drives me insane, how good Cade Cunningham is compared to the positions that he has been put in. He has had 3 I've already said this, 3 different head coaches in 3 full seasons of basketball. What guidance has he had? What leadership has he had? What example has he had to follow in the last few years that has actually given him some sort of anything to build on? Jeremy Grant he had for a year, and like half of it was spent figuring out who should have the ball more.
Yeah.
It's blown my mind, the talk on Cade Cunningham, because coming into the league, he was seen as, oh, he's the next jumbo point guard. He's the next Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, all these other things. And now you have guys like this NBA whatever baby dude on Twitter talking about how if this was 2017, would be seen as a good player. I'm sorry, if this was 2017 and you were talking about like a 6'3" point guard who has a rough 3-point shot but can drive well, yeah, sure, he would fit in perfectly in 2017. You put Cade Cunningham into any other era and he stands out. I'm so mind blown at the discourse, and I'm really hoping that for no other reason besides Cade, I hope the Pistons can actually make a step in terms of competitiveness this year, because the talk around him has genuinely, like, I've lost my mind. I feel like I'm in a whole other world than most other people, just because you see like him putting up 44-point game after 40-point game and then 30-point game, and he is giving it his complete all, and he gets blamed for this type of situation. This isn't football. And I think people talk about it like it is, like he's a quarterback and he's basically in charge of the offense. I'm sorry, even in the NFL, you need a good offensive line or else your quarterback doesn't mean shit. It's just, yeah.
Like I'm with you, and Organic Lindo had a really good comment, and I think it actually relates to like what you were saying. And he commented, similar to his rookie year, Cade and the Pistons stunk up the joint to start the season. The mainstream and casuals tuned out after that. And I think that is just a really good assessment by him, because to your point, when the Pistons won the lottery, everyone's just like, yeah, Cade is going to be this guy to really turn the franchise around. And his situation doesn't really determine the success that he's had, because he's still produced with all-time just terrible spacing last year, 22, 7.5, couple boards a game. Like, he was still producing. And to your point, I think a lot of people, like casual people, that don't get to tune in to the Detroit Pistons, they're just not as high on Cade, is because the wins haven't really translated yet. But we know the type of player he is. We know that you can build a team around him. I've said I think he's the easiest player. His type of his archetype is probably the easiest player in the NBA to build around. You just need some shooters, role players, and some defenders, and you have a good basketball team. But the previous regime really couldn't figure that out. They were just really obsessed with centers and ping pong balls for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I think this season, if he starts winning games, I think the discourse will completely just flip. Sorry, like I don't think people are gonna like go on the internet and say, "Oh, Paolo's better than Cade Cunningham." Like I just don't really think that's going to be the case.
It's insane because, and this isn't even hate towards Paolo. I like Paolo. I've been a fan of his since he was at Duke. I don't see how he is a better NBA player than Cade Cunningham at this point. But the talk he gets as a all-star, and as the all they average identical stats. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? At the end of the day, it blows my mind. I don't understand the Cade Cunningham discourse. I haven't for a while. I understand he had a slow start to his rookie season coming off of that ankle injury, but I feel like ever since then he's kind of been on go. And then he got injured again, and then it took I think maybe like a few games. Honestly, even game 1 against Miami last year, he came out swinging. Yeah. It's just it's really hard to put any blame on Cade Cunningham for, like, I would say, of the last few years,